Training camp is one of the bigger times of the fantasy football season where we take a look at the positional battles, the big contract moves, and the injuries that ultimately change the course of values when we are looking at players in our fantasy drafts. Now, whether you're drafting next week or at the end of August, all the news is going to be very important as we get a closer look at what NFL lineups might actually look like, whether that's an RB2 that could be taking over as the team's RB1 or a significant injury that completely changes an offense course of action heading into the season. Whether or not it's an injury or a move, we're going to take a look at and break it down. All the news you guys need for week one of training camp right now on Blitz Sports Media. What's up, everybody? I am Ryan Linkletter, and I'm going to be the one breaking down all of the training camp news from week one. If you haven't already, make sure you go check out the PPR mock draft we did with Debro from Fantasy Pros. Really good mock there. We went through, adjusted some of our values, and had a great draft. Honestly, really good video. Make sure you check that out. But what you guys are here for are the biggest training camp risers and fallers that you need to be paying attention to after week one. All of you guys don't have the time like I do to sit on Twitter, take a look at every single team's beat reporter and find out every information. That's what my job is. That's why you guys come to this channel and follow me for this type of information. And that's why I'm going to provide you with it. Let's talk about some of the biggest fallers and the guys that are impacted by that to start. First one is Brandon Ayuk. He currently was listed on the pup list to open up training camp, which means he is almost certainly going to be missing week one due to an ACL tear that he suffered last season. Now, this does help players on the 49ers roster, including Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall returned to training camp after a hamstring injury during OTAs and looked really sharp today, which is a very encouraging sign that he is going to be very involved in this 49ers offense this year. Jawan Jennings has been operating as the team's primary X receiver, which has been very coveted in Kyle Shanahan offenses. I'm very high on both Jennings and Pearsall this year, cashing in on their ADPs, while Ayuk is going right around them. I'm fading him right now just based on the injury that he has, him not being available to start the season, and a lot of really good value at the wide receiver position, right where Ayuk is going right now. But I'm very high on Jennings and Pearsall in that offense. Another big downside with an injury at the receiver position, Chris Godwin also on the pup list to start the year, and it looks like it's going to be a great time for Emeka Egbuka to step up within this offense as a rookie. He's currently Ohio State's all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards, and he is going to be productive in the NFL. Baker Mayfield mentioned this guy's the real deal. He can play any sort of position we ask him to, and that's very encouraging for me, where Emeka Egbuka's time to get on the field in week one seems like a clear path to me, with Chris Godwin likely to miss the first 4 weeks of the season, opening up on the pup list. Now, you do have competition on the outside with Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan, but Egbuka playing in the slot where Chris Godwin is supposed to be slotted is very enticing based on his current value, where he's being, the last 3 rounds of drafts, and I think he could be a good cash in. We haven't necessarily seen a lot from Luther Burden. He is still inactive, but showed for Bears camp today. We will see how his role is in the Bears offense, but for now, he's a guy I'm avoiding. Treylon Burks suffered a fractured collarbone, going to miss the year, and he was waived by the Titans today, ultimately capping off a really rough contract for them. And then the final one that, is a really big downside in terms of injuries right now is Joe Mixon, who landed on the non-football injury list with an ankle and foot injury. Now, it's not the same as landing on the pup list at this point of the year, as he's not guaranteed to miss time in the regular season. He is sitting out, though, with a foot injury, and with Mixon's age, I'm very concerned about it. Mixon has not necessarily been a burner in terms of efficiency over his career and has relied a lot on volume, leading him to solid RB1 finishes. And we saw that last season in Houston, but kind of faded towards the end of the stretch. Now the team brings in Nick Chubb, has Woody Marks now from the draft, and they also have Dameon Pierce in that backfield. It's very nice to see Nick Chubb's value kind of work back in, but I'm not necessarily sure I'm buying in. He's had a lot of injuries as well and did not look the same behind a Cleveland team last year that was not very good. Woody Marks is intriguing, but I don't think he gets enough tread to make himself fantasy relevant. All in all, I think this Houston Texans backfield is one that I am really just staying away from right now in fantasy football. I'm not sure about the offensive line. I've heard good things from camp, but haven't really seen it play out on the football field. I think I'm staying away from these Houston Texans offensive linemen, or not offensive linemen, they're running backs, until I have a clearer picture on Joe Mixon's injury. And I think Mixon's value needs to significantly decrease right now. based on that cost. Najee Harris, another player, has not reported to camp because of his injuries from a firework, which Omarion Hampton gets those early snaps, which is so key as a rookie as he's already working in as the team's primary RB1, potentially leading to more of a 60-40 uh, backfield split with Hampton and Najee Harris, which is nice to see. Hampton's a really good player, very productive in North Carolina. We all know he's a first-round pick, going to be a really solid player for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. As far as the quarterbacks go, Justin Fields suffered a day-to-day injury of the toe. Great news for him. He's still within my top 10 quarterbacks this year. Matthew Stafford has been limited with back soreness, and I think this is one worth monitoring considering the fact that Stafford has struggled with injuries throughout his career. I think this does impact the value of Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua for sure within this offense. I'm not super high on Kyren Williams, but that'll also impact it if Jimmy Garoppolo suits up as the quarterback one. So that'll be something that we need to monitor and make sure we check out. But those are the main injuries now we're looking at. But let's take a look at some of the risers and fallers in terms of just reps and how these backfields are checking out. Now, we do have a lot of positional battles that are very important for kind of figuring out. We'll start with the quarterback position, where in Indianapolis, you have Anthony Richardson, who has been hovering around a 50% career completion percentage, and then Daniel Jones, who is now out of New York and in Indianapolis. The reports so far have been suggesting that Anthony Richardson has had a brutal start to camp, and Daniel Jones could be in line for that week one starting role. Now, the Colts are giving AR every single chance he has in order to prove himself as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. But if he continues the poor play, they are going to go with Daniel Jones because Shane Steichen's job is on the line. And a lot of these veterans on this roster want to win now. And I think with the Indianapolis Colts hearing that, I am very excited potentially about Daniel Jones being the fantasy quarterback. Now, that will lead to more touchdowns around the goal line for Jonathan Taylor. Tyler Warren could have goal line packages as well as a runner, and his passing volume will definitely be increased. The wide receivers will have higher floors. Josh Downs, a player that I'm targeting a ton right now, regardless of AR or Daniel Jones as starting quarterback. But I think that one, if Daniel Jones is a starter, we have to feel really good about their fantasy options this year. The Browns, on the other hand, it seems pretty good right now. Joe Flacco's presumed starter right now. Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel are working in first team reps. But I think that Joe Flacco elevates some of these players in fantasy football. We saw David Njoku be a top 6 tight end with Joe Flacco as the starter. We saw Cedric Tillman show out, and he's going at the end of drafts right now. Jerry Jeudy, obviously reasonably priced right now in the slot. But I really like where this Browns team's looking with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And I want to talk about that running back situation here in a second. But I think that with Joe Flacco, it provides a little bit of a floor with these Browns options compared to where we have like Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel, where we don't know what we're going to get with Gabriel and Kenny Pickett. We've seen some really low floors in terms of fantasy production. In the backfield, we've seen Jerome Ford miss time. We all know Judkins has some legal problems that could cause him to be suspended this year. Dylan Sampson is a player you need to know. Sampson had really good production in college, was the 2024 SEC Offensive Player of the Year, and I think he's going to carve himself out with the role. I don't believe the Browns feel super confident in Jerome Ford. They drafted 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds. I think Sampson will have a role in this offense. Now, Judkins and Ford miss time. This could be Dylan Sampson's backfield to lose. And I really like that output if Joe Flacco is the presumed starter and Sampson's basically going in the last 3 rounds of drafts. So a player to definitely watch there. As far as the running back battles go, it's been pretty quiet on that front so far. And obviously this will be more of a preseason thing that we'll see how the snaps shake out. The Cowboys is one that everybody is looking at. Who is going to be the starter in Dallas? Javonte Williams has led the backfield in snaps to start training camp, which is definitely where he's priced right now as that RB1. I haven't heard good things about Jaden Blue's efforts in training camp so far. We'll see if those reports are true, and his production on the field overshadows some of those reports. Miles Sanders has been mixing in with the first team, as well as Deuce Vaughn. So a really clouded backfield. I'm not buying into any of those guys. The Chiefs backfield is still really crowded right now. Elijah Mitchell has been taking first team snaps, while Brashard Smith has only played sparingly on the first team. Now we know Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco will have a role within this offense. It is down to Mitchell and Brashard Smith to determine who else is going to have a role in this Chiefs offense. We will see what happens, but right now, not looking good for Brashard Smith. The Packers and the Eagles both have similar situations. They have bell cow running back ones, but need to establish that RB2 behind them. Now, Marshawn Lloyd has been taking a majority of the RB2 snaps behind Josh Jacobs, which has been good. AJ Dillon has been taking first team reps ahead of Will Shipley, which is very, very good to see. And I think Dillon is more reasonably priced than Shipley in drafts right now. So, very interesting nugget there. As far as the wide receiver rooms go, the two big ones that we need to talk about are the Packers and the Patriots. The Packers have let's just say that how it is. They have 12 receivers on their roster right now. We do not know how this is going to play out, but early reports have been suggesting that Matthew Golden has been showing out here in the nickname Bullet already for his speed and versatility during the first week of camp. Jaden Reed, it seems like, has been put on the back burner a little bit in terms of reps. So that is something that we need to monitor going forward. The Patriots look like they have Demario Douglas locked in the slot with Stephon Diggs now on the outside. Now, the third receiver is in big question. It feels like we are getting a different receiver every day that is showing out at Patriots camp. So that is a situation where I don't know if I'm necessarily buying into those rooms until I see a little bit more on that end. As far as the other information that's going that's exciting is the Raiders are starting to establish a clear depth chart at the receiver position. A lot of people are really high on Jack Beck. I don't see it. Beck is currently operating with the second team. Meanwhile, other rookie Deontay Thornton is operating with the first team. There are only three wide receivers that ran under a 4.4 and a 6.4. DK Metcalf, Calvin Johnson, and Deontay Thornton. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be nearly as good as those guys, but Geno Smith has historically thrown to wide receivers more than tight ends in career. Brock Bowers is going to have a role. Jacoby Myers is going to have a role, but Deontay Thornton could carve out a really solid role and be a solid flex pay, and he's going undrafted right now. So I think he's a very solid option that we need to be monitoring going forward. Obviously, the final thing, the big contract situations that are impacting camp. Terry McLaurin has finally reported to camp, but who knows? He's seeking DK Metcalf money, which is $33 million. Obviously, his age is a bit up there, but if he continues to sit out historically, players have not performed as well the first few weeks of the season or regressed in fantasy points per game. The only player in the last 7 seasons who increased their points per game following an in-camp holdout is, hear me out, Michael Thomas in 2019. Now, we will see what happens, but Terry McLaurin, things are not looking great there. I don't really love his ADP where he's going. We'll see. I think he does wind up suiting up this season, but I don't know if it'll be at the production he was having last year. James Cook, Kyren Williams, both holding in as well. We will see. I'm not super high on either of those players heading into this year just because regression is due. Jake Ferguson got a big extension. I think that showcases what the Cowboys think of him as their long-term tight end option. He's been good when Dak Prescott has been in the lineup, currently outside of the top 10 tight ends. So I think he's a guy you take a look at. And then Cortland Sutton got locked up today for, the 16th highest paid wide receiver money. I think he definitely has a long-term role in Denver, and Sean Payton's going to find a way to get the ball. And he was a really solid piece in fantasy lineups last year. So an intriguing option all in all. All in all, though, very, very good first week of training camp for us to get a little bit of information, a little bit of tidbits about some of these players below. If you have any questions on any of these players' value, make sure you drop a comment below. If you're looking forward to more content like this throughout the offseason, fantasy news, fantasy mock drafts, just more insights as it is, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And my name is Ryan Linklater, and I'll catch you guys next time on Blitz Fantasy Football.